All right, guys, the 2019 season is upon us, and I want to take a look before the season does start at some NFL win totals, and we've been really successful with these in the past, so I want to throw some of these out at you, take a look. You may want to piggyback and tail a few of these, if not all of them, but I want to give you some more insight into exactly how we come up with these numbers. So the expected wins are based on my model, the statistics that are fed into that model, and then adjustments made for new players on each team's roster. Primarily the quarterbacks. They're the ones who are going to move the line the most, right? Andrew Luck's going to move the line about 6.5 points when he is not in, and obviously will not be in this season. But Lamar Miller missing is going to move the line very little, if at all. More than likely moves the line 0 because you've got backups who are comparable. All right, you don't have that as much with the quarterbacks. The difference between a top quarterback and the average quarterback in the league is a much bigger gap, and it's a gap that affects the point spread far greater than running back. This is why we're seeing running backs are the ones always holding out, because teams are starting to realize that they can win with not just any running back, but if you have a good offensive line and an average running back, it is far more productive than having an average quarterback. So beefing up your offensive line, having a great quarterback far helps your team greater than having the great running back. So that's a topic for another day. But understand, when you're looking at point total or point spreads, and you're looking at injuries, players missing time, you don't want to overvalue the loss of running backs and wide receivers, tight ends, things like that. You'll see the game go off the board far more frequently when a quarterback is questionable, or if a quarterback suddenly becomes a late scratch and is not going to play, as opposed to a running back. Okay, there's the few running backs in the league, and we don't have to go over the great running backs, but again, you saw it last year with Todd Gurley. Gurley comes out, C.J. Anderson comes in, and they miss absolutely nothing. You saw it in Kansas City. Kareem Hunt out, Williams in, they miss nothing. Statistically, those guys are producing. Connor with Bell, they're producing at a very similar level to what we thought was perhaps an elite running back, but in essence, it could very well be the fact that the scheme that the teams run, combined with their offensive line, is giving these running backs the ability to run at a high level. So that's a whole nother note, but we add in all these roster changes into the model, compare it to what Pinnacle has, and what we'll do is what's called a Poisson distribution, Poisson distribution. That will determine, based on my expected wins for that team, exactly what the probability is that they finish below the total, above the total, or exactly at the total that Pinnacle has. We can then do an expected value if we know the percentages of that. If we know the percentage probability of a team winning less than the total and more than the total, we can then figure out the expected value. And those expected values that you're seeing are based on a $100 bet. I then want to achieve a 10% return on my bet. So on a $100 bet, if I can get back at least $10 in expected value, that's a play that I'm going to make. And of course, most of these bets are not going to be exactly $100. They're going to vary because I play a to win 100, I should say. The expected values are based on a bet of 100, but when we play this, we want to play a to win 100 amount. So if it's a minus 133 favorite, that means you're going to be risking 133. So if I'm only getting 10 back on a risk of 133, it's not as advantageous as risking 100 to get 10 back. So I might not want to play the minus 133 with a $10 return. My ROI is not as good. So we want to keep these with a high potential ROI. That's going to give us a little bit of room here to play with if our numbers aren't totally exact, and they're not going to be exact. There's a lot of art as well as science to this. Let's jump into some of the teams, though. Arizona this year I have as an under. There was a lot of hype coming in. You got the Kingsbury offense with Kyler Murray as the number 1 draft pick. A lot of hype on Murray having a monster season. I think maybe with Mahomes last year being as good as he was, there's a lot of hope that Murray is maybe not exactly Mahomes of last year. I don't think anyone can be, but he was going to have a phenomenal type of first year in the NFL. That is such a rarity. Does not happen often. Guys playing in their first year, and I know Mahomes was in his second year, but guys playing their first year in the NFL, very rarely do they have that kind of a season that is hugely impactful, certainly in fantasy. You don't see first-year rookie quarterbacks who are moving their team into the playoffs all that often. So we want to be a little leery there. But we did see, as the preseason went on, Murray not looking as well as people anticipated, and that has tempered some of the expectations. So we still think the market is a little overdone. At 5, this team needs to win 6 games in a tough division. San Francisco, Seattle, and the Rams all look to be pretty good teams, if not, the Rams being a great team coming off their Super Bowl. Arizona, obviously the worst team in that division. Terrible offensive line. They do have David Johnson, but again, with that offensive line, I don't know how they're going to get the ball down the field. They need to get to 6 wins. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. We do like the under 5 with Arizona in that one. So Baltimore, just kind of going down the list, is the team I like the most. You've got Lamar Jackson now coming into his second year, and while he's been a fairly inaccurate or a very inaccurate quarterback, I think what you're going to see here is we know he can run the ball. We know that they're going to focus on running the ball, playing ball control, but you will see some down-the-field action with Baltimore. I think you draw the defense in. Defenses are going to clearly be playing at least 8 men in the box trying to stop that run, and they're going to have their moments where they could pick the defense apart going downfield. It drives me absolutely crazy when I see inaccurate young quarterbacks who can't throw those 5 to 10 yard out passes, slants, yet teams will say, well, we're going to dumb it down, we're going to play conservative, and by conservative they mean short passes. The short passes are where you need to be the most accurate. Right, the ball doesn't travel a great distance. It needs to be right on the receiver, and you also want to get the ball to the receiver in a position where he can catch it and run. If you're constantly throwing the ball on the back shoulder of a receiver who's cutting across the middle, you're opening yourself up for a lot of interceptions as the ball bounces off of guys' shoulder pads. And even if they make the play, they're going nowhere. They've got to turn and make that catch. To me, throwing the ball downfield takes a lot less accuracy. You rely on getting your receiver in a one-on-one situation where he can get up and make the play. We know that the receivers have an advantage in this league on pass interference calls. Get the ball downfield. So I think what you're going to see is more man coverage on the wide receivers on the outside for Baltimore because of the fact that teams are going to try and stop the run. And a lot of play action, a lot of RPO, and balls deep down the field. So that is where Baltimore is going to take advantage. So we love them at 10.5. The total is 8.5. Just obviously my numbers are disagreeing with where the market is at. I don't hear a lot of hype on Baltimore, but I would not sleep on Baltimore. Absolutely love this over. Defense is going to be pretty strong. Love the over on Baltimore. Another one that we've gotten a lot of hype with this year, and we have to absolutely fade, is Cleveland. We know about Baker Mayfield. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is now in Cleveland. The hype behind Cleveland is extraordinary, unlike anything else. Probably because this is a team that has done nothing for so long. It has clearly been the worst team since they've come back into the league in '99. I believe they've only made the playoffs one year. I want to say it was '04 with Mangini. Since Cleveland came back into the league. It is very hard to fathom that this team has a 9-win total, meaning they need to win 10 if you bet the over here. This is a clear under. The numbers say it's an under, despite the fact that I bumped them up with Mayfield playing a full season. I gave him a slight bump up in improving. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to give them a slight bump. But to get to 10 wins is going to be extremely difficult, especially since we like Baltimore so much, and Pittsburgh will not be a bad team. Pittsburgh is going to be right there contending for a playoff spot. So when you've got 2 other teams in your division as good as Baltimore and Pittsburgh we anticipate to be, getting to 10 wins will be extremely tough. I mean, 9 wins really may win that division, although we don't anticipate that with Baltimore. We see them winning more. But certainly 10 wins is going to probably, I would would say if you get to 10 wins, it's going to be extremely difficult in that division. So 10 wins we'll take with Baltimore as the division winner. Clearly gets us to an over. But, getting multiple teams to 10 wins in that division, I don't see happening. The Colts, normally we would have taken the Colts as we had the Colts as an under, even with luck in there, but we would have not taken that at all with luck. Because, as I've spoken about before, Luck, Rodgers, and Brady have exceeded their win expectation on a year-in, year-out basis. Obviously, because they're great quarterbacks, there's probably a lot more to that, deeper than just on the surface numbers, more efficient in the red zone, not turning the ball over, taking risk when they need to, probably getting some advantageous calls from referees, a combination of those factors. So with Luck not there, the numbers drop. I take them down 6.5 points per game. That should be about what Luck's win or what Luck's advantage was over Brissett. Although don't sleep on Brissett. I think Brissett will have a good year. This offensive line is much improved, but this team needs to get to 8 wins in order for you to cash on an over. I don't see this team being able to get there. That's again going to be a tough division, not nearly as tough as the other two divisions we spoke about, but this is a division where teams are really close in their in personnel. I think we're going to see mediocre division, probably the worst team out of the AFC, or the worst record out of the AFC winners will come out of this division. Getting to 8 wins, I don't see it. We like Indianapolis on the under. Kansas City and New England, you're going to see, as I have as unders, and as I've spoken about, both Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, certainly Tom Brady, and we're getting a hint that Mahomes might be in that category, have exceeded my win total expectation based on the statistics, far greater than any other players or coaches. And we've actually seen with New England, I don't believe they've ever come underneath what my win total expectation was. So again, as I spoke about, between coaching and the quarterbacks, I think we're in a situation here we don't ever want to fade New England with Brady and Belichick, and I'm getting to the point now where Mahomes may fall into that. We'll see how he goes this year, but certainly Andy Reid, so we're going to stay away from the unders on Kansas City and New England. The Jets and under, again, there's a lot of hype here that Darnold makes big step forward. I do think Darnold is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. I don't know if he takes the leap that gets them to over 7 wins. Of course, with New England in that division, the rest of the division is winnable. Those games are winnable. We think Buffalo does improve this year. Miami, maybe not so much. Jets need to get to 8 wins. Going to be a tough number to get to in order to beat us. We like the under with the Jets. Philadelphia, another team, there's a ton of hype. 9.5 is the total. I've got this at 8.5. I've given a bump up for Wentz playing a full season, but does he play the full season? That's the question. Any injury to Wentz, I think this becomes an under easily, and we've seen that happen the last couple of years now where Wentz has not been able to finish the season. Love the Philadelphia under. San Francisco, a team, again, a lot of hype. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to come back off of injury. We have yet to see Jimmy G play a full season. He's looked good in spurts when he has played. Of course, he looked good with New England, but every quarterback that they've had there has looked pretty good. Did win his first few games in San Francisco. We have to see Jimmy G stay on the field for an entire season and win 9 games. Not going to be easy to do in that division with the Rams and Seattle. So we like the under 8 there. Another one I want to throw out is Tampa. We do like the over in Tampa. You've got now a new head coach, right? Bruce Arians comes in off of medical leave for the last couple of years after he was coaching over in Arizona. You've got a new offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, who seems to be working really well with Winston, and Winston will be the key to where this team goes. He's been inaccurate and made bad decisions for much of his career. Bruce Arians is known as a bit of a quarterback whisperer. He had Luck, he had Carson Palmer, he had Ben Roethlisberger. So the hope here is that Bruce Arians can turn Winston around, who has all the physical tools and all the talent. There's a lot of hype now with their wide receiving core. Evans and Godwin. You've got O.J. Howard at the tight end. Running back, definitely weak. So they're weak at the running back position. But can Winston take the leap forward, get this team to 7 wins? We need 7 wins here from Tampa. I like it. And we're going to take that over. So there's more plays in there you can investigate. If you have any questions or comments, confused as to what Poisson is, how we come up with the expected values, feel free to drop me a line, leave a comment, and good luck on this season that is upcoming.